Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for coming out on what might be the coldest night of the winter. It's close. It's close. It's dropping down to near zero tonight. So the fact that you're all here with Greg and the folks from Water Street Bookstore, it means a lot to us. My name's Dan Chartrand. I'm the founder and owner of Water Street Bookstore. And we have a very simple mission here at Water Street Bookstore. Our mission is to build a diverse and vibrant community around the written word. And you are helping us be on mission tonight, so I want to thank you all. Give yourself a hand. Yay. Thank you. And we have a book that has a plot that's like Canterbury Tales in an RV stuck in the snow. I want to know who's the wife. Who's the wife of Bath? Which tale is that? It's the best book, and it's such a classic scenario. People stuck in a place that's not home, and they're swapping tales, and it's just so good. You are in for such a treat if you haven't read it yet, and if you've already read it, you know how good it is. I want you to join me in welcoming Gregory Bastianelli. Thank you.
I want to thank all you for coming out tonight. And thank goodness it wasn't last night's weather. So even though it's cold, at least the snow held off.
Exactly. No precipitation.
And if you read this, or when you read this, you'll be grateful not to get stuck in the snowstorm that these people get stuck in. What this is about is a group of travelers who on Christmas Eve get stuck in a blizzard, and they get stuck and snowbound on a turnpike in a desolate area, and they end up banding together to try to survive the elements, but then realize that there's an unnatural force out there in the storm that they have to deal with. And I'm going to read the opening chapter, which starts off right away in the midst of the storm. A snowplow trudged along the narrow turnpike lane, trying to keep up with the onslaught of wet, heavy snow piling up on the road in thick drifts. Hell of a way to spend Christmas Eve, Toby Hodge thought, as the blade of his plow burrowed through the piles of white. The wind whipped snow across his windshield, blades thwacking back and forth, useless as crusty slush built up along the edge of the wipers and the sides of the glass, narrowing his view of the road before him. Damn! He could barely see the road. Hadn't he just gone down this way not more than an hour ago? The storm was piling the snow up faster than he could keep up with it. And where the hell were the other state plows? He hadn't seen anyone else on the highway for a while. He tried raising the other trucks on the two-way radio, but got nothing but static. The storm wreaked havoc with communications. Damn. New Hampshire hadn't seen a blizzard like this since '78, and that was more than 40 years ago. Fitting, Toby thought, considering this was to be the last run of the winter. Nell had kept telling him to retire the week before Christmas, giving them time to enjoy the holiday season before their big move to Florida. But no. Toby knew how short-staffed the Department of Transportation was this time of year, and offered to work right up to the day before Christmas. Then they'd have one day to enjoy the holiday with their children and grandkids before the trucks came to pack everything up for their relocation. Then this shit had to hit. He had watched the reports all week. Everyone was predicting it would be a big one. He remembered '78. God, that seemed so long ago. He was young, the kids young. Evan was only a baby that year. Now he was grown and had given Toby a couple of mighty fine grandkids. Not bad considering his son had been a high school dropout whose life got derailed by drugs. But Evan turned his circumstances around, and Toby felt blessed about that. Seeing your child suffer in life aids you. And if that wasn't enough, Old Man Winter decided to rear his ugly head and give Toby one last blast to remember him by. No way he'd soon forget this. One more slice of memory to kick his ass. God, he wouldn't miss this. Not one bit. If only this night would end. He'd probably miss the grandkids opening gifts tomorrow, because he'd be still out here on the turnpike trying to clear the lanes for all the holiday travelers. Toby hated the thought of missing the little ones in the morning. This would be his last Christmas to see that. After that, he and Nell would never set foot up north this time of year. That's the thing he'd miss the most about moving to Florida, seeing the grandkids on Christmas morning. He wanted one last moment of that, and this storm had ruined it. He should have listened to Nell and retired a week earlier. She was always right. He just hated admitting it. Don't think about it, Toby told himself. Get through this nightmare and it'll be over with. Soon he'd be lazing in the sun on a fishing boat, casting for stripers or bluefish, pina coladas at the tiki bar, and all-you-can-eat buffets every Saturday night. No more shoveling, no more plowing, no more frozen fingers and numb ass cheeks. Just sun, sand, and surf. But now the only waves coming at him were white, and the snowplow struggled against the tide. Hadn't he just cleared this section? How the hell could it be snowing so damn fast? He dropped a gear and looked down at his speedometer. He was barely doing 30. Toby was surprised he could even move the thick snow at that speed. He looked up from his dashboard just in time to see the brown shapes in front of him. What the? He yelled before slamming on the brakes. Reindeer? He looked into his driver's side mirror, which was encrusted in snow. He hadn't noticed if there were vehicles right behind him before he hit the brakes, and though visibility was horrid, he could see no sign of headlights. Was anyone crazy enough to be out on a night like this? No, just him. He was the only idiot, Nell would say. If he could get the damn radio to work, he'd call the station and tell them to shut this stretch of highway down. It was already nearly impassable, and his plow wasn't helping much. More than anything, he wanted to be home, even suffering the admonishing his wife would give him. How many times had she told him? Enough for sure. Nell was always the reliable one. She knew best. That was one sturdy woman he had married those many years ago. He knew Nell was readying their house for his return from this dreadful night, snow blowing the driveway and shoveling the walk to the front steps. She'd keep stoking the fire in the wood stove, more than likely bringing in extra wood from the shed. She wouldn't be just sitting on her ass waiting for him to come home. And that would be in addition to all the baking she'd be doing for the big day tomorrow, pies and cookies. That woman would not stop. And when he finally did get home tonight, more likely tomorrow morning, she'd have him sit and relax by the fire and bring him a mug of steaming hot cocoa with a dash of peppermint schnapps. Even though she herself would have suffered through a rugged night, she'd make sure he was comfortable when he got home. God bless that woman, Toby thought. No way would he have made it this far in life without her by his side. And she didn't expect much in return, just the comfort of knowing he was home. Now if only he could get there. Toby looked beyond the windshield, rubbing the frost from the inside with a gloved hand, flakes of frost peeling off and dusting his dashboard. There was no sign of the deer. He swore he had seen them, several. Bucks, too. He saw antlers, he was sure of it. What the hell were they doing running around in this shitstorm? Toby eased down on the clutch and shifted into first gear. The plow lurched forward and then stopped. He lifted the blade, brought it back down, pressing on the gas. The truck didn't budge. The snow he saw in the path of his headlight beams nearly reached the top of his plow blade. This can't be, he thought. It couldn't have built up this fast. He shifted the gear into reverse, glancing again at his side mirror for headlights, and then tried to back up. He felt the wheels spin. He tried going forward, but only got a couple of feet before slipping sideways. In more than 40 years of plowing, he had never gotten stuck. A rig this big, weighing this much? No way the wheel should be spinning or sliding. Toby slumped down in his seat, thinking. Maybe if he released some sand and spread it around the tires. He didn't want to get out in this mess, not with that pelting snow and swirling wind. He was comfortable in his seat with the blast of hot air blowing on him through the dashboard vents. He grabbed the radio handset. Hello, base. This is P12. Can anyone hear me? He sensed the anxiousness in his voice. If they could hear him, they'd probably be laughing at him. Nothing but static spat out of the speaker. Damn. Toby grabbed a flare from the glove box and shoved it in his pocket. He pulled on his fur-lined winter hat tight over his ears and reached for the door handle. The wind ripped at him as soon as he opened the door, almost tearing it from his grip. He stepped onto the ice-crusted runner and slipped, falling onto his back in the snow. It was good so much snow had built up on the road, otherwise the fall might have hurt him badly. As it was, only his pride stung. He struggled to get up. Way too old for this, he thought. If Nell could only see me now. The grandkids would certainly have a laugh, and that thought brought the only smile to his face so far this evening. He shut the truck door and walked toward the back end. The wind whipped snow around his face, icy pinpricks driving his cheeks. He couldn't see very far beyond the truck. The path he had just plowed along the highway was getting swallowed up quickly. He thought he could make out lights from vehicles in the distance coming this way. Shit, he said. He took the flare out of his pocket and pulled the string. It burst into a bright red light, and he tossed it into the road behind his rig. They couldn't be moving very fast in this. He hoped they'd see the flare in time. Toby knew approximately which mile marker he was at on the turnpike, which meant it was a few miles between exits, one of the more desolate stretches on the highway, with nothing but woods lining both sides. No easy way to get off. Nobody should be even on it on a night like this. He unlatched the shovel attached to the side of the truck. With the wind howling like a freight train, he could barely hear himself think, but another sound joined the night, someone calling for help. He turned toward the front of the truck, the direction the sound was coming from. It had to be his imagination. The wind screeched too loud to hear anything else. But it came again, a low moan. Someone hurt? Out here? No, it was just a trick of the wind. It just sounded like a person's cry. But it compelled him enough to walk toward the front of his truck and around the wide plow blades. Ignoring the snow pelting his now numb cheeks, he stared out to where the headlight beams ended, cut off by the swirling snow and dark night. A figure stood in the road, motionless. Wet snow stuck to his eyelashes, and he wiped it away with one gloved hand, the other still gripping the shovel. It was still there, a tall, stout figure. "Hello?" Toby called. His voice sucked away so they couldn't be sure the person had heard him. He climbed into the snow on the road in front of him, sinking up to his thighs. He struggled to lift each leg and plant it in front of him. When he got a few feet closer, he realized what he was looking at. A snowman. What the hell, he thought? Is this some kind of joke? Who the hell would build a snowman in the middle of the turnpike? There was no mistaking it. 3 round balls of snow piled on top of each other, branches for arms stuck out from the sides of the middle section, a black top hat perched on the head, tilted forward so Toby couldn't see the face, a red and white scarf wrapped around the neck, its ends flapping in the wind. With everything he'd been through this miserable night, this senseless act irked Toby the most, and he felt like smashing the damn thing with his shovel. He gripped the handle and took a step forward. Then the snowman's head rose, tilting back as its face came into view. Beneath the coal black eyes and long crooked carrot nose was a black mouth, grinning with 2 rows of sharp teeth. Toby froze in his tracks, bringing the shovel up against his body defensively, his heart thudding in his chest. He turned to run, but his feet were stuck. He pulled at his legs until the snow finally released its grip. Toby stumbled through the snow, like wading through wet cement. He didn't dare look behind him, because he knew if he did, he'd see that deranged snowman lurching after him. What the hell? The snowplow was only a few feet away, but the snow made his efforts so slow he didn't think he'd be able to reach it. He tossed the shovel aside, as if losing the excess weight would help. His arms swung wildly, trying to propel him forward through the thick snow. Cold air sucked deep into his lungs, preventing him from screaming. He could hear a swooshing sound from behind. He slipped and fell into the road beside his front tire. Scrambling, he got up and grabbed the handle of the driver's side door. It was at that moment when he finally glanced behind him. Toby saw nothing but the swirling snow. He opened the door and climbed up into his seat. He slumped back, releasing an exhausted breath, only to continue panting. He removed his gloves and saw his hands were shaking. A mirage? He wondered. Toby knew tired drivers sometimes hallucinated. Highway hypnosis, they called it. Was that what had happened to him? He had been plowing for nearly 20 hours straight, and at his age, crack! A branch smacked against the driver's side window, causing him to jump. The long branch split into 3 thinner ones, like fingers on a misshapen hand. It scraped down the glass, etching narrow cracks, as if trying to claw its way in. No, Toby thought, this can't be. He punched down on the door lock and moved to the middle of the bench seat. He shut the headlights off. Maybe it won't see me, he hoped. Crack! The branch came down again, this time on the windshield before him. The 3 twig-like figures bent, digging at the glass. It can't get in, Toby told himself. The glass is too strong. It won't break. The branch pulled away from the windshield. Toby peered out the glass, looking around all 3 sides of his cabs. He didn't see anything. a strange sound came, faintly. Toby turned off the truck's engine and listened. It sounded like it was coming from under the truck's hood. A scraping sound. It was getting closer. Then he realized it was coming from the vents in the dashboard. Wow, I was there. If you want to find out what happens to him and the rest of the people on the highway, there you go. Does anybody have any questions?
So what were your inspirations on that?
Probably every miserable winter I've ever suffered living in New England.
Yeah. What about
kind
the thought of the snowman? It reminds me of some of the stories we heard when we were kids about, you know, the people stopping on the road and scraping across the top. I mean, stuff that would tell those down in the back in the woods and would be tearing off or running.
Oh, yeah.
And it reminds me of that.
Yeah, there's a little of that. There's a
Yeah.
little of everything. I tried to put every type of winter misery and fear and everything in this one book.
Perfect release time.
Yes.
Great book, yeah.
Any other questions?
How long did it take to put it together?
Well, thinking about it, a lifetime. Actually writing it probably took me about 6 to 8 months to write it. It was probably one of the books that came the quickest to me. Once I started going, everything just kind of came together. Just as perfect as I could, even better than I imagined it could come together. So it was a nice experience.
More of that, please. More of that.
Is this your favorite out of the 3 that you've written?
They're all my babies.
Have
Can't play favorites.
Your favorite is always the one that you just finished.
Yeah, yeah.
You set it out into the world.
Yeah, it was nice. I mean, I got done, the actual writing was done 2 years ago, and it's just waiting for the process of editing and publishing, and waiting for my publisher to schedule it, you know, for the right time. And so, yes.
Talk about the cover. I love
I
covers,
had-
and I love that cover.
My publisher had, my editor actually had asked me, he said, well, what would you like the cover to look like? And my first 2 books, I had great ideas. I had images of the cover involved, you know, in mind. But this one, I kind of really didn't know, so I kind of thought about it, and I gave him maybe 4 or 5 different thoughts of what the cover could look like. And he thanked me and didn't use any of them.
Yeah.
And assigned it to an artist, and I have no idea how they came up with this.
I love
But
it.
it was
Love
when
that cover.
he sent me the image, I said, yes, it's subtle enough. It's but it leaves
Not terribly
yeah.
subtle.
Well, except for all the blood at the
Face with
bottom.
Snowball is what it is.
So
When you first put it out, I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I loved it.
yeah, thank you. It's a very nice cover. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I'm here to sign books for those of you I haven't signed for yet. Welcome to bring books up and have them
Edit
signed.
much out of it?
Did they edit much out of it? No, not really. Really, it pretty much remained intact. I had to tweak a few things that the editor thought need fixing, but other than that, story-wise, everything I put into it was there.
I loved how you made us really love Toby. We loved how he loved his grandkids. We loved how he loved his wife. We loved that he was getting out of the hellhole of the, you know, and then you just grabbed us. It's like, that's kind of mean.
I know. I'm very mean in this
No,
book.
it was-
so don't fall in love with too many people.
Oh, really? It's a Game of Thrones kind of, don't get attacked.
No, I got attached to some of the characters too. I had one character who was supposed to be a very minor character, and then he ended up becoming more important to the story than I thought he was going to be. So that was kind of a nice
How many
surprise for me.
months into the writing did you finally figure that out? Or were you a way through it?
No, probably. I think I might have been maybe a quarter of the way through. I had, the main characters I was focused on, but the story is viewed through the viewpoint of all the different characters. And every now and then I had to kind of step away and from the scene I was in, and I said, well, where am I going to go? And I said, I'll go to this guy because he's kind of just hanging out over here. And so what am I going to do with him? And then, well, I got to have something interesting happen with him. And it kind of just developed, and then he just kind of knows his way into the story.
That's fun too, though.
Yes,
Is
it's
there a
surprising. It
pantser?
was fun.
You're a pantser?
What's that?
You don't plot out? You just
I do not plot out. I've never used an outline. I kind of I have an idea of where things will start, and I sort of have an idea of where things will end, but I really don't know how I'm going to get there. So I just kind of, I took the characters, I put them in the situation, and then I said, okay, what will you do? What is this guy going to do? What is this woman going to do? And they kind of did what they wanted to do. And I just followed along and tripped them up every now and then.
Do you have another, what's your next project?
Well, I have a few other manuscripts that I've actually got a couple other manuscripts that are done, and I have another one that I'm working on right now. So I'm not sure which one of them will end up being the next book, but I know my publisher is certainly in editors eager to await what's next. So hopefully I'll get one of them squared away. Okay. Thank you all for coming.